I mean, one of the, I think, amazing things about obesity really is, and a lot of doctors I've spoken to said it's basically undiagnosed depression. Because if you think about it, yes, when people get bigger and bigger, and actually, you know, the natural sort of serotonin, a way of making yourself happy, is potato chips, which is the worst thing. Crisps. Yeah, I'm sorry, come to America. Spent too much time in America. Anyway, you know, so it's undiagnosed depression, really, basically. So I think, you know, people have to look at why they're putting on weight and you know, what they can do differently. And I'm just saying, you know, you've got to be on a diet, you've got to exercise, you've got to do that. That never seems to work.
Do you think frightening people would work? Because obviously the headlines that we're seeing across the papers today and in the news is that obesity is as much of a problem as terrorism. Now, obviously, with the events that are going on around the world, there are many people that are frightened, quite rightly, and some people would say, well, that's massively over-dramatising the case. But is it? Because you are statistically more likely to die from an obesity-related disease than you are being affected by terrorism.
Right, but you know, something amazing happened to me. I wish it hadn't, but in retrospect, I'm glad. I had a life-changing moment where I had anaphylactic shock, and I actually died and was resuscitated. And you know, when I was out and I could have gone somewhere else, I imagine, I looked down and I saw this body there which looked like me, so it was me, but I'm me, and there was a nurse there trying to resuscitate me, and
you were
ultimately
actually dead?
I was actually, yes, and I was resuscitated. I came back. But what happened was, I realised when I looked down, two things. One was I wanted to raise my children, and the other was I looked at, and your body is a vehicle. It's your car, basically. Now, if you want a comfortable car, right? You don't want to be in pain, and you want it to last as long as possible. So you wouldn't treat your car as badly as you treat your body. So I think that's really something for people to look at.
The car gets an MOT every year, doesn't
Well,
it?
yeah, but you wouldn't put water in your oil, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
No, you're right. And if it starts rattling and not working very well, you do something about it. But we just live with aches and pains, and that's
well,
a good analogy, actually.
We need to listen to our bodies, and then, you know, now it's so fantastic on the internet, you can research it yourself.
If you had a really overweight friend, obese friend, and you were seeing that their children were obese as well, would you intervene? Would you say anything?
Personally, I think that if you are raising a child to be obese, that's child abuse.
Really?
Well, I think so, because what happens to a baby until the age of about 3, the way you feed them, if you overfeed them with all the wrong stuff, that's, you know, they can't get out of that.
So would you intervene? Would you say to a friend? You know, because you would, if you saw somebody feeding a child alcohol or drugs, you would say something, wouldn't you? And yet being obese is extremely bad for health. We know that.
Well, it's also very hard to talk to people about an addiction, and it basically is an addiction. And we all know that if you try to tell someone not to do something, you know, that's not going to help. They have to decide for themselves. So I think it's giving information, like you so rightly said, give them an actual visual of it.
Of how you should eat through pregnancy.
Or do you think, you know, in some cases, you know, that women don't necessarily like to say it between themselves because it will make the person feel worse about themselves. Some people might even take it as bullying rather than constructive.
Well, the trouble is, whenever anyone told me I was obese, I would just go and stuff my face. Because it was the way that made me feel better, you know. Well, or maybe, so it's a dodgy one.
You know, try and do something and say, well, let's do something together.
Right,
you know.
And I was saying that's the way to do it. Instead of hitting it, you know, take them for a walk, just say, hey, let's go for a walk. And, and let them start feeling good about doing something.
Or for lunch.
Or ice cream.
Do you know what? I really love you.